friends, how's it going? It's me, Betty Jean. Today's video is my monthly reading wrap-up. Get ready with me. I'm gonna be doing my makeup while I chat with you about all of the books I read last month in the month of April. As always, it'll be as spoiler-free as possible. I'm just gonna give you the general gist of the book and my thoughts on them while I do my makeup, and it's gonna be a fun time. I love doing these videos. I love this group of us that just loves makeup and books, and we can do them all together. It's such a fun time. I also, as always, love hearing like what you've been reading lately and what you recommend. What do you think about the books that I'm talking about? It's a fun time. And I think we should just get into it. My only accessory today is just this old basic choker, and I have nothing else left to say. So let's just hop in, chat about books. Friends, hello. Let's get into this video. My hair is just cooling. I will fluff through it at the end. But we are gonna talk about books and do makeup. I have lots of new makeup, stuff I've been playing with, a palette I have not touched yet, and I'm excited to dive in. How many books have I even read this month? Let's see, 5, 10, 13 books, and I was over here thinking it was a slow month for books. Wow. Well, let's just dive into it, shall we? I did, of course, already do my brows, and I primed already because I always prime before I do my brows. I used the Flower Beauty one, the Radiant Glow Primer. And now we're just gonna jump into the rest. If I don't mention a makeup product that I'm wearing, it'll all be in the description box down below, as well as all of the books will be linked that I'm talking about in case you feel like shopping. I'm gonna go in with the Glossier foundation, the Stretch Fluid Foundation. I don't like a ton of this one. I feel like it can be a little overkill if I go too much, and I don't like super heavy coverage, which this isn't full coverage by any means, but I do like it to be a little more on the light and sheer side. So I'm just gonna start applying this while we talk about our first book, which was Unravel Me by Tahereh Mafi. This is the second book in the Shatter Me series. I'd read the first one like last summer, and I just had not gotten around to getting any more of the books in the series, and I figured it was time to. I think this book was on sale, so I snagged it when the Barnes & Noble in my town finally opened up. I'm so happy we have one now, as a side note, but I have the second one, and I'm venturing back into the series. Basically, this is a YA dystopian series. Our main character, Juliet, has this ability, so to speak, where her touch is lethal. She was at first imprisoned, and it was like a whole thing in the first book. I don't want to like delve too much in the general plot because I don't want to spoil the first book either. So I'm going to be pretty vague. That's kind of how series go because I don't want to spoil any plots. I want to give you my general thoughts without being spoilery as much as possible. But basically in this dystopian world, there's a lot of unrest going on. There's a lot of sadness. People are losing their homes. The world is just becoming devastated. So this is just kind of course, it's the second book. So it's following up to events that happened in the first book. We are now trying to fight back. We're trying to learn more about ourselves. She's really trying to get a handle on her power and what it means. We're learning more about other characters that maybe we thought we knew one thing about, but really it's a different thing. Again, I know I'm being vague, but it was good. I feel like I liked the first one more than this one. This one I feel like dragged on a little bit in some places, and I feel like it could have been sped up a little bit. I also just felt like, I don't know. I feel like I just needed more out of the characters in this book, which this is very clearly like a middle book. It's like 2 out of 6, I think. And this is very much like setting up for the third book. So there's a lot of just like, I don't know, this almost just felt like a big, how do I describe it? Just explanation of different characters, so to speak. It was still good. I still enjoyed it. I'd probably give it like a 3.5 stars. It was good. It wasn't my favorite compared to the first one. Like the first one I really enjoyed, and this one was just like, it was fine. It wasn't bad, but it was fine. I wasn't against this series at this point or anything. Like I was still excited to continue on. I just recognized that that book was probably not going to be my favorite. But overall, if you're looking for just like a fun kind of YA dystopian, it's a really fast read, just the series in general. So far, I'm not done with it yet. So far I'm enjoying it. Now let's move on to the second book, which was Ali Hazelwood's Bride. I was very excited to get into this one. And I'm going to move on to concealer now. I've been using my Salt New York concealer the most lately. I was excited but hesitant about this book because Ali Hazelwood I have such a love-hate relationship with. I didn't love Hypothesis. That was the first book I read by her. It was just okay. I didn't hate it, but it just wasn't my favorite thing in the world. I listened to the audiobook of her YA chess romance, Check and Mate, and that one was cute. It was enjoyable. So I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this one. This was kind of her first venture into something kind of romantic-esque because we have werewolves and vampires. So I was like, maybe I will like it. I love that kind of stuff. I love a cheesy like vampire situation, like give it to me. I didn't end up loving this one. Our main character is Misery, which is really a cool name for a vampire, I must say. And she's getting married to the alpha werewolf who is Lo. Lo is his name. She's getting married to him. It's right at the beginning of the book. She doesn't know him. She just knows he's the alpha werewolf. It ends up being more of like a marriage of convenience. Like there's reasons for her to marry him, reasons for him to marry her. They don't know each other ahead of time until they meet at the altar. So the book is kind of just dealing with why did they get married? What does it benefit both of them? We're trying to unravel a mystery that's going on here. There's definitely some trust issues. There's some tension between werewolves and vampires in general. Like it's a huge deal that they even got married. Throughout the book, we're just trying to kind of figure out what Misery is trying to get out of this because you don't really know what she's looking for right away. Like what her purpose for getting into this marriage of convenience is. And as the book goes on, it starts to all come together. We figure out what each party is kind of looking for. We're seeing like the connection grow between Lo and Misery. But overall, I really did not like this book. For contour, I'm just going to use the Salt New York one as well. It just felt, I don't know, a little fanficky and not in a good way. Like I recognize that there's good fan fiction out there. This did not feel like a good example of that. It just felt like weird. It felt like she was trying really hard to write this kind of romantic-y world, and I don't know. I had a really hard time getting invested in the characters. I was not vibing with their relationship. It was a pretty fast read, thankfully, but overall, I didn't love it. It wasn't my favorite thing. I wasn't super invested. The plot wasn't, I don't know, that great. It was really hard for me sometimes to keep track of all the characters because there were a lot of characters kind of thrown at you at once. Overall, just not my favorite thing. Not my favorite book. Probably my least favorite book she's written so far that I've read. I haven't read all of them. I would like to see... I want to say I'd like to see more of this vibe from her because I liked that it wasn't just another STEM romance because that's what she's mostly known for. But I just feel like she needs to fine-tune it a little bit more. I gave this 2 stars. Didn't love it. Just didn't love it. And I really, really wish I did. I was excited for it. And at this point in the month, I was already feeling a little blah because my first book was just like, okay, it wasn't anything groundbreaking. And then I really didn't like the Bride book. So I was like, okay, let me read something else, something that's going to be fluffy and easy and something that's going to capture my attention. So I moved on to Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. This is the second book in the Dreamland Billionaires series. I read the first one, I want to say last summer, I want to say. I'm going to use my Cocoa blush from Salt New York now. I'm going to use a powder blush also, but I just want to add a little bit of this into the mix just to get started. Basically, the Dreamland Billionaires series, it's kind of themed around Disney World. It's these 3 brothers. They are inheriting various aspects of their grandfather who created Dreamland in Florida, his company after he passed away. The first book dealt with one of the brothers, and this one is dealing with another one of the brothers, Declan. We have Declan and Iris. His whole thing with his portion, they all have a catch. They aren't just simply getting their inheritance. They all have to accomplish a task in order to be eligible for it. And Declan has to be married to become the next CEO. He's not interested in getting married. That's just not his thing. He's very business oriented. He's very much that grumpy kind of male main character. His assistant Iris, who's been working with him for quite a while, they have a really good business relationship together. She volunteers for the job just because she knows it'll benefit him. Ultimately, it'll benefit her because he'll be happy, so she'll be happy. It's a whole thing. They don't have a romantic connection going into this at all. It's truly just another kind of marriage of convenience trope, which that might have been my mistake, going into another marriage of convenience right after reading Bride. But it is what it is. I enjoyed the first book in the series, so I was excited to get into this one. I just overall wasn't vibing with Declan and Iris together. Very much grumpy sunshine, very much he's the strong, independent male main character. She's strong and independent, but she's also very much just trying to like, she's a, I can fix him, no really I can. Like that's the vibe that I get from her. I'm verifying with the back of the books. I don't ever want to say anything spoilery, obviously, but I forgot they also have to have a baby. They have to get married and have a baby for him to be eligible. So it's all kind of setting up for that. Obviously, as you would expect in a romance, they're going to actually start forming a connection over time, but I just wasn't really feeling it with them. I don't know what it was. I just wasn't vibing with their relationship at all. I didn't really feel like they should be together. I don't know. Oh, I guess towards the end it started to grow on me a little bit, but it took quite a while for me to really get there. It wasn't a bad book. It was a pretty easy read. It was pretty fast paced. I just wasn't invested in these particular characters. So this also wasn't one of my favorite books of the month. I gave that one, I don't know, maybe a 3.5 stars. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't like my favorite. I still want to read the third one in the series at some point. I've heard a lot of people say that that's their favorite of this series. So I'm hoping that's the truth when I get to it at some point. And then moving on to my fourth book of the month, I went with Glass Sword by Victoria Aveyard. This is the second book in the Red Queen series, and I really enjoyed the first one. It's kind of like a YA, fantasy, dystopian, little bit of romance, kind of a good mixture of everything. Basically, in this world, there are the reds and there are the silvers. The silvers have these powers, these abilities, and they've kind of like taken control of just society in general. Like they're the ones on top. The reds are the ones who are poor. They're kind of mistreated. They're kind of just seen as lesser than in society. And in the first book, Mare discovers that she is not only just a red, but she also does have this ability. So she ends up kind of getting lumped in with the rulers of this particular area. It becomes like a fake dating sort of thing. Again, I don't want to get into the overall like plot and spoil the first book, but there's kind of a lot going on. She's like supposed to be betrothed to the prince, yada, yada, yada. Things go awry. Craziness happens. The ending of the book is a big like cliffhanger. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was good. So I was excited to dive into the second book. Unfortunately, I had a hard time with this one. I found myself getting so bored on some of these pages. I feel like so much of the book dragged on way more than it needed to. This book could have easily been 100 pages shorter. There were so many parts where they're just like scouring and like searching through tunnels, and that would be pages and pages of them just searching through tunnels and like nothing's really happening. So I'm like, we could have like gotten here a lot faster. I found pretty much all of the characters in the second book to be pretty unlikable, especially in the first part of the book. Our main character, especially Mare, like she was pretty annoying. That's the best word I have for you. She was just annoying me in this book. I don't know what it was. Basically, the main premise of this book, without spoiling the first book, is after things have gone kind of awry and kind of crazy since the first book, we're trying to resolve that. We're trying to figure out the next steps in this world. And part of that is trying to find other people similar to her, where she's a red, but has other powers. And once we kind of got to that part of the book where we're finding other people that are kind of similar to her, it got more interesting. I really enjoyed those characters. And then I enjoyed like the battle scene at the end, but there was just a lot of the getting there that was a little slow. This wasn't my favorite one, I gotta be honest. I gave it a solid 3 stars. I didn't really want to rate it lower than that because I didn't overall dislike it. I just struggled with some parts of it. And with it being like a YA book, usually those are very easy to just immerse yourself in because they're usually very simple, very easy to understand, very easy to just go with the flow. This one, I just found myself not even like finding it too complicated. I was just getting bored. As we're going into the next month, I'm starting the third book and I'm really hoping I'll like it more because I really enjoyed the first book and this one was just fell a little flat for me, but I'm gonna persevere. I already have books 3 and 4, so I'm gonna persevere. I'm gonna finish them. I'm just hoping I end up enjoying them more. I hope this was just a weird middle book that was trying to set up and wasn't really giving us a whole lot. So we'll see. It seems like it's gonna be better just based on the synopsis, so I'll report back next month. So then I was feeling very slumpy, to say the least. Really quick, I wanna just add a little bit more blush. I wanna use one of the Rare Beauty Luminous ones in Truth. These are so pretty. I haven't worn this one yet since I already have a little bit of blush on from the Salt New York. Not a ton, I didn't want a ton of color, just like a little something. I'm not gonna go too crazy. I just want like a little something. So I'm just gonna build up a little bit. But to say the least, I was feeling very slumpy after reading multiple meh books in a row. I wasn't feeling great. I was like, I need a book to be obsessed with. And then thankfully, on my Libby app, the 4th Magnolia Parks book became available right around that time, which was Daisy Hates The Great Undoing. 4th book in the overall Magnolia Parks universe, but the 2nd Daisy Hates book specifically. I love the Magnolia Parks universe. It is toxic characters and they're all interacting. People are hooking up and breaking up, and there's family drama, there's friendship drama, there's lots of individual growth amidst different characters. I just love it. You can't go into those books expecting just like a fluffy romance, because that is not what these are. These are very toxic characters dealing with very toxic things. But if you go into it with the right mindset, you will eat it up like I am. I'm so fascinated by these characters. I'm so invested by them, and I love them. And I loved the first Daisy Hates book, which was the second book in the Magnolia Parks universe. So I was really excited to see what was going on with this one. And just to kind of recap, in case you don't know about these books, basically we have the Magnolia Parks books and we have the Daisy Hates books, and they kind of intertwine. So like you do read them in order like that you're supposed to, but just the different ones are dealing with different sets of characters, but they do overlap a little bit with different moments and scenes and character developments and stuff. I love the Daisy Hates book specifically because we get 3 different character perspectives. We get hers, we get her brother Julian, and we get Christian's. We get to see her and Christian's relationships kind of evolve and fall apart and evolve again. And it's just a whole thing trying to figure out the complexities of their relationships and just hoping that things can work out between them. But then things will happen, it'll cause problems. And then we have Julian, who is like a major crime lord where they're at in the London area. And I love seeing the back end stuff of all this crazy crime lordy things. Like he deals with like art theft and all sorts of craziness. And I just love it. I love seeing his perspective of different like relationships and stuff. I don't want to delve too deep because I don't want to spoil things for the previous books because it's so just fun watching it all go together. But just know that like events that happen in book 3 that involve Julian, I loved seeing his perspective in this book of things that happen. And the way this one ends, I was like, are you kidding me? Because we don't technically have the next Daisy Hates book yet. The 5th Magnolia Parks book came out recently, but the next Daisy Hates book hasn't happened yet. And I'm so curious to see like what happens in that in-between of like this one and the 5th Magnolia Parks book, and just like what happens beyond that. I love Daisy, I love Julian, I'm just obsessed with these characters. And I'm so glad that this book became available at the right time because I needed it. I gave it like a 4.5 stars. I feel like in general, these books are like between 4 and 5 stars. The 3rd book was a 5-star for me. It was my favorite one so far, but this one was really, really good as well. And I'm just so curious to see what happens with the rest of these books going forward. I have finished the current, most recent one, the 5th one, but I'll get to that later. And supposedly there's going to be 2 more Daisy Hates to come. So I'm very invested and I can't wait. I'm going to talk about the next book while we add fake freckles. Next was my book of the month pick. I went with The Husbands by Holly Gramazino. I'm so sorry if I butchered that. I was interested in this. It seemed like a cool concept. We have our main character, Lauren. She comes home one night and there's just this guy in her house who's claiming to be her husband. And she's like, what the actual hell is happening? And then she like is on her phone and she realizes she has all these pictures with him. She's looking back at text messages and it's like something happened and she's like in an alternate universe where she has this husband and has had this husband for some time now. So that's super weird. But then he goes upstairs into the attic, this light flashes, and then a new guy comes down and now that's her husband. So basically her attic is magically creating and spawning an unlimited supply of husbands, which is pretty weird, pretty crazy. She's trying to figure out how to navigate that. Like, when do I stop picking husbands? Who do I stick with? How do we get out of this in general? And overall, it was pretty interesting. I liked seeing how she was kind of dealing with these different characters and husbands and scenarios. There were some parts that were so just funny and out of left field. It was very entertaining. But I will say this book probably could have been shorter. I feel like there were some parts that like droned on a bit. But I did like her just kind of, I don't know, coming into herself a little bit more and doing like self-reflection on like what she needs and what she wants. And overall, it was interesting. It wasn't anything groundbreaking. It was entertaining enough. I'd probably give it like a 3.5 stars. It wasn't bad, but I wasn't like obsessed with it either. I feel like if it would have been maybe a little bit shorter, or maybe if we could have even gotten to know some of the husbands a little bit more individually, because there were certain times where she's just like going through them like super, super fast. Like she's like absolutely not moving on. I don't know. I feel like there could have been some things tweaked about it, but overall it was entertaining enough. A little heavier than planned with the freckles today, but it's okay because I'm going to be doing a very bold eye look, so it'll all balance out. Just spraying my face a little bit. I think I will do highlighter at the end because I don't want to do it right this second. I want to move on to the eyes. I'm going to be using my new Melt Smoke Sessions 2. I ordered this on launch day. I only ordered the palette. I didn't want the full collection, but this is beautiful. I love all the purples. I have very little knowledge about smoking. So I don't know what a lot of this means, but I just know the color story is really pretty. And I'm basically going to be doing just a really smoked out look. I'm going to have like a black smoky lower lash line, a little bit of a wing. And the mattes I'm going to use are Purple Punch and Black Roses. I just want that kind of blown out in the outer corner and the lower lash line. I'm going to be putting Monster Cookie all over my lid. I want Blue Haze in that lower lash line, and then I'll probably highlight with Martian Candy. So that's kind of my vibe, just because I'm going to be talking about the book. So now you know what shades I'm going to use. I'm going to prime with my Sigma eyeshadow base and Ignite, and we're going to get started while we talk about the rest of my books. After reading The Husbands, even though I didn't dislike it, I was like, I definitely want to read something next that I'm pretty certain I'm going to love. Because I was so scared of risking feeling slumpy again after how the beginning of the month went. So I picked something that I was excited to read, and it ended up paying off. This is As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. This is the third book in the Good Girls Guide to Murder series, the finale of the series, if you will. And I love that series. The first 2 books I gave 5 stars to. I thought they were so good. They are YA murder mysteries. They're so good. We're just dealing with our main character, Pip, dealing with 2 separate, like, cases in books 1 and books 2. Book 2 specifically, she has a podcast at that time, so she's kind of doing it with her audience involved as well. And then the first one started out as a school project, gone way big. So now we're entering book 3. The way book number 2 ended was pretty traumatizing, so we're kind of at the beginning of that with her right now. She's really struggling with a lot of anxieties and really PTSD from what she went through of the second book. She's trying to get a handle on things, just find more balance back in her life. But she's worried that she's going to be next. There are threats happening. She's finding connections between herself and a local killer, and she's getting pretty paranoid. People around her aren't really believing her. They think she's just looking for another new thing to entertain herself when really she wants nothing to do with any of this anymore. Overall, it was really fun. I feel like the book definitely went some directions I wasn't expecting out of her, but I kind of liked that it was a little unexpected. It ended pretty abruptly and leaves you kind of open-ended as like what's going to happen next with her life. And I kind of like that. I like that it wasn't like all tied up in a cute little box because, I mean, it's pretty serious stuff she was dealing with. But overall, I didn't love this one as much as I loved the first 2. I still really enjoyed it. I'd give it 4 stars. But it didn't quite captivate me the same way the first 2 did. But overall, I loved that trilogy. I want to read more books by her. I want to read her new book really, really badly. There's another one I want to read. I think it's called 5 Survive that came out a while ago. I would like to read more from her because I think her writing is really good. I think she does a really good job keeping us as the reader on our toes, trying to guess what happens and stuff like that. So overall, even though this book wasn't like my favorite of the trilogy, I still really enjoyed it, and I'm so glad I read the trilogy overall. After I finished that one, I was kind of feeling a romance vibe again, so I went in with Twisted Hate by Anna Huang, which is the 3rd book in the Twisted series. There are 4 books in the series total, and each one is kind of dealing with a different friend in this 4-girl friend group. So they're all interconnected standalones, but I mean, you should read them in order, obviously. And this one is dealing with Jules. She is our character from book 1, Anna's like absolute best friend, and she's dealing with a little bit of a enemies to lovers sort of thing with Anna's brother, Josh. Jules is in law. She ends up getting a job at the same hospital that Josh works at. They really detest each other. They always have. But since they start working together, they decide to kind of pull a little bit of a truce just so that they can maintain some professionalism in the office and that they're not biting each other's heads off every day. Of course, as things progress, this enemies to lovers turns into an unexpected spicy little night, and it just kind of evolves into something more than that. They kind of come out with this, not even like friends with benefits relationship because they're not quite friends, but they are becoming friendlier. They're definitely in denial. Their relationship is just building. There's a lot of drama going on in Jules's life. She's dealing with her ex, trying to bring problematic stuff from her past back up, trying to sabotage things going well in her life currently. So we're dealing with a lot here. Overall, I really enjoyed this one. I think so far this is my favorite one of the 4, and I don't see that changing, but we'll see when I get to book number 4. Obviously, I still have one more to go, but so far this is my favorite one of the series. I really liked their dynamic. I liked their banter. I liked that the tropes in here were vastly different from like books 1 and 2, because books 1 and 2, while I enjoyed them, I felt like they were both just like overprotective male main character. Grumpy Sunshine. Like it was kind of the same thing in a different font. But this one felt pretty different. I really liked that. I really liked Jules's character. I enjoyed her evolvement with Josh, and overall I ended up really enjoying it. Probably like a 4, 4.25, somewhere in that zone. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. Moving on, I read the 3rd book in the Shatter Me series, Ignite Me. I loved this one. This was by far my favorite one of the series so far. I feel like, again, just in this dystopian YA world where our main character Julia is really trying to come together on like her life and what's going on and hone in on her powers, and we're getting to know other characters and figure out like what they're really about more and more. This one followed up with that second one so beautifully. I feel like Juliet really came into herself in this book. It was really nice to see just her evolvement. I feel like this one went by so fast. It was so quick. I loved how her relationship grew with various characters. I felt like overall this one was just a lot of fun. I love in a book series when you can just really see a character really evolve and grow into themselves. It's so good to see, and I feel like we really got that with this one. Again, I'm not going to delve into details too much. Overall, it's still just dystopian world. We're trying to fight the reestablishment and figure out how to get past this crazy world, and I really liked the way this one ended. I have the 4th book, and I will read it next month. And I'm just excited to continue the series. I feel like this book in particular really made me excited to continue because, like I said, the 2nd book wasn't bad, but I wasn't obsessed with it, so it was just fine. But this one, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. I read this one so fast. It was so quick. And I'm just excited to see where the rest of the series goes from here because I really don't know what to expect with the last 3 books. There's a bunch of little novellas in the mix of this series too. I haven't read any of them. Maybe I will at some points, but they're not like high on my priority list, if I'm being honest with you. I want to go ahead and do my wing now. I'm going to use my Surratt liner so that I can smoke out my lower lash line alongside of my liner. I've really been liking this liner though. It's really skinny and it makes it really easy to be precise with, which is great. I'm just gonna fill this wing in and do my other one to make it match as much as possible, and then we will continue talking about books. All right, liner's done. Ended up just adding an extra little swoop for something kind of graphic-y, and I think it's pretty cute. So I'm just gonna take my black liner and start smudging my lower lash line. And I guess while I do that, we can talk about Happy Place. We're actually on the last 4 books. Can you believe it? Happy Place by Emily Henry. This came out last summer, but I patiently yet impatiently waited for the paperback version to come out because I did not want the hardcover. I wanted it to match my other Emily Henry books, so alas, I waited. And that's now what I'm gonna do with Funny Story because her newest book just came out, but I will wait until the paperback becomes a thing. This book was so good. This is about Harriet and Wynne. We're getting a little past and present perspective building up to this moment, which I love a past present perspective in books. It's like one of my favorite things of all time. I just think it's so good kind of seeing how pieces connect from the then and now. Basically, every summer, this group of friends, including Harriet and Wynne, all get together at this summer cottage that one of the friends' families owns. And they get together every summer at this cottage throughout like college up until now, which I think at this point they're all like around 30. So it's been probably the better part of a decade that they've all been doing this. At this moment in time, this is the last summer that they're gonna get together at this cottage because that family member is selling the cottage. So this is supposed to be like a really special, memorable trip for all of them. But what the friend group doesn't know is Harriet and Wynne, who previously had been dating for so long and were engaged, have actually broken up recently. They broke up a few months prior, but they hadn't told their friends yet. So they're going on this trip together and they're gonna fake it. They are going to pretend like they're together for the sake of their friends, so that everyone can have one last memorable summer. And I just loved what this book did. I feel like it plays so much on just like how, especially throughout your 20s, like you really see different friends and stuff, or like your core friend group really like going into different phases of life, and everyone's kind of doing different things. We're not able to see each other as much anymore. We're kind of seeing that friendship kind of not fizzle out, but just change directions a little bit. Things aren't the same as they were when we were like 20 and young and able to do whatever we want whenever we want. I really liked seeing the complexities around Harriet and Wynn's relationships and like what went wrong. And I loved seeing like, again, the past and present perspective and kind of how did we get to this point? What caused them to fall out? Are they going to get back together? How are they going to balance being together? I loved the overall theming, and it was just so good. It was almost a 5 stars. It didn't give me quite that 5-star feeling, but it was close. Like I would definitely give it like a solid 4.5 or 4.75. It was really good. It's probably my second favorite Emily Henry book. My first favorite was People We Meet on Vacation. I think this is my second favorite. It was so good. It just had me feeling so emotional, and it was almost cathartic to read. It was just so good. What a great book. I'm really liking this look. I think this is really pretty. Next, I read A Marvelous Light by Freya Marski. I actually had tried reading this like a month ago, and it didn't go well. I got maybe 80 pages in, and I was just realizing that I was not retaining a single bit of information that was happening in the book. And I was like, I don't want to give up on it because I like the idea of it. It's like a LGBT magical rom-com sort of thing. We're trying to solve this disappearance that happened while these characters are connecting. Our main characters, Robin and Edwin, who kind of butt heads a bit at the beginning, are trying to go off on this adventure together to figure out the disappearance of this other co-worker, so to speak. But when I was reading it physically like a month or so ago, I just could not retain any information. I just had such a hard time keeping track of these characters at first, and I was like, I don't want to give up on this book because it just seems like such a cool idea. So I took a break from it, and then this month, over the course of maybe like 2 weeks or so, I started listening to it on audio, and then once I got past the like halfway point, I was kind of switching between physical and audio, and overall I enjoyed it. I feel like it was a fun kind of magical sort of story. I liked how the characters interacted. I really liked the banter between our main characters specifically. I do feel like sometimes it was hard to like keep track of the characters just because there's a lot of characters going on, and this is like a British story too, and it must just be a proper thing. But at the beginning, before Robin and Edwin really get to know each other, it's always in third person, but sometimes certain chapters are clearly in one character's perspective more than the other. But at the beginning, they would address each other by their last names. And for a while, I was like, are these different characters? And it took a minute for me to like let it connect that these are all the same character. It just took me a minute to get invested. And overall, I enjoyed it. I think there's 2 more books in this series, and I'm not necessarily running out right now to go read them. I might read them at some point. But overall, I am glad that I didn't fully quit on it after I attempted it last month, and I gave it another try after taking a break. Because I think the story was good. Probably a solid like 3.5 stars. I don't know if it's like my ultimate favorite writing style, but I still think it was a fun story, and I'm really glad I ended up giving it a try, or a second chance rather. Need to do highlighter now. I almost forgot. I'm gonna use Seismic from ColourPop. The next book I read was the current final book in the Magnolia Parks series, which was Magnolia Parks Into the Dark. This one is definitely just like a major follow-up to the 3rd Magnolia Parks book specifically, just because again, we're in these characters' perspectives now. Again, I don't want to spoil things that happen in previous books, but there was some tragedy that went on. Magnolia is dealing with a whole lot of just grief and sadness and trying to really navigate through the complexities of her life. We're overall just entering a new chapter with her and BJ, just trying to learn how to trust and evolve and deal with what life is throwing at them. I feel like this book in particular wasn't super heavy on like plot, which in general, I would say these books aren't crazy plot heavy. It's just kind of going through these people's lives. It's not like that perfect like build, plot twist, end. But this one specifically, I feel like was really just like almost a long epilogue of like what's going on currently with Magnolia and everyone else in her life. But overall, I liked it. It made me feel good. I just love this universe. I love these characters. I love seeing what's happening. I just loved how so many different things kind of resolved and wrapped up in this book. There's definitely little snippets of things that are going on with Daisy and Julian and Christian, and I cannot wait for the next Daisy Hates books because I have to know what is going on. As far as I know, this is supposed to be the last like Magnolia Parks one specifically. The next books in this universe will be Daisy Hates. And I feel like this was a really good like way to kind of finish off Magnolia's portions of these stories. I would give this one probably, again, like another, like between 4.5 stars. I just love these characters. I love these books. I was so worried that I was gonna hate them, which is why I ended up going the Libby route instead of buying them. Maybe now at some point I will buy them just because I love them so much. I'll just own them as little trophies. But for now, I'm just really glad that I read them in general. I don't think they're gonna be everyone's cup of tea for sure, but I am just super glad that I gave them a chance. I think I went into them with the perfect mindset and I just love them. I love those characters. And while I finish up my mascara and lashes, I suppose we can get on to my final book of the month, which ended up being my 5-star read of the month. I loved it so, so much. I read it so quick. I finished it this morning. And I figured that meant I could film this video because tomorrow is the last day of the month and I know I'm not going to finish another book before the month is over. I just have too much work to do. But I read Abby Jimenez's new book just for the summer. This is the 3rd book in the Part of Your World series. So there's 2 other books before this, Part of Your World and Yours Truly. They're all interconnected standalone, so we're dealing with different characters, but I still highly recommend reading them in order. And I'll be honest, I actually didn't even realize this was part of that series until like, I think the day after I bought it. Which is a good thing I've already read the other books. I just assumed this was a separate thing, but it's in that same universe as Part of Your World and Yours Truly. We get snippets of those characters, and we actually get little Easter eggs, if you will, of characters in the other series she did, the Friend Zone series. We get little Easter eggs of that too, that was fun. I enjoyed that. I love getting like little callbacks to characters from those books. That was really cute. But overall, this book was so good. I started it yesterday. I read almost all of it yesterday and I read the last 50 pages this morning. I was so sucked in. I love Abby Jimenez's writing. She does rom-coms so well because it's like so light and bantery and the characters are so easy to get invested in. But then there's also like real topics being dealt with, like things that are really hard and kind of sucky. So I like seeing us get to like navigate through these really hard topics, but still having this like fluffy rom-com kind of thing going on. So we have our main characters here. We have Emma and Justin. Emma stumbles upon Justin because he wrote like an Am I the Asshole Reddit thread. And she thought it was funny and she reached out to him because she could relate to him. They both think they have this curse where anybody that they date is destined to find their soulmate immediately after dating them. So they are struggling to like find a person to be with because every time they date someone, they end up meeting their soulmate right afterwards. He's dealing with family stuff in his hometown. She's a travel nurse, so she's kind of bouncing around all the time. And as they're developing this friendship through like calling and texting, she ends up making her next destination for travel nursing where he's at. So they get to know each other in person. They end up deciding to make this pact where they should date each other because then it'll cancel out the curse. And then after they break up, they'll both meet their own soulmates. And they're both super game for this plan. So they start seeing each other, they start dating. But of course, in typical rom-com fashion, they end up actually like kind of falling for each other for real. But there's a lot of traumas here. Like I said, he's dealing with a lot of family problems. She's dealing with a lot of family problems with her mom. There's so much stuff that comes to light with like her family situation and his family situation. Super, super rough too. But I just loved the way these characters integrated with each other. She's navigating her toxic family and learning how to trust. He's dealing with basically becoming the father figure for his siblings unexpectedly. And overall, it just ended up being such a good story about them just kind of like getting over their own battles and learning to trust each other. She's getting that found family kind of aspect. I just love it. I feel like I'm explaining this so poorly, but it's because I'm trying to keep it vague because I feel like you should just read it. It was so good. I just love Abby Jimenez so much, and this specific trilogy has just been amazing. Part of Your World and Yours Truly were absolutely phenomenal, and this one was just so, so great. I ate this up. I read it so fast, and I'm like kind of sad that I'm done reading it because it was just such a good story. I felt so invested, so immersed. It was amazing. And that is all of the books that I read this month. I need to just finish up. I need to throw on a lip, which is gonna be one of my new Likely Makeup liquid lipsticks, but I do want to film a quick lip swatch video for Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts, which should already be up by the time this video goes up, but if it's not, it's coming very soon. So I'm gonna go film that really quick, and when I return, I will have picked one out for the day. And we'll finish this video up. Thank you so much for watching my video. I had so much fun today. It was just such a good time talking about books, playing with makeup. I'm really liking my look today. I'm loving the Smoke Sessions 2 palette. I definitely want to do another look over on like Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts as soon as I can, so stay tuned for that. The lip combo I ended up going with today is the No. 2 pencil from Freck with the Picnic Blanket liquid lipstick from Likely Makeup over top of it, and I just think it's so cute. I love this kind of slightly cool toned pink. I think it fits the look really well. But again, I would just love to hear your thoughts, whether it's about the makeup I used or the books I talked about. Let's chat down below. If you made it to the end of this video, leave some book emojis, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Helps my channel out a lot, and if you're not already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm BATTYBEAN there as well. And if you want, you can subscribe. I'm posting most days over here. And if you would like to, you can join my channel memberships. The link to sign up will be down below. You'll get fun little perks, including a members only video once a month. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Okay, bye.